Hey guys, it's Mel. Welcome to my channel. So this is another tag video that I decided this morning that I'd really like to do. The Bookternet Allstars tag video. So the reason that I've chosen to do this video is because it's actually something that Rachel Marie from Rachel Marie has decided that she is going to do as a way of raising money for COVID-19 relief, which I think is an absolutely fantastic thing to do. So I think she's already reached her cutoff. I'm not actually anticipating that she will put any money because of this video, because like I said, she had a cutoff which was €75, which is completely fair enough since she is, of course, not made of money, as none of us are. Basically what happened was that for every video or Instagram photo shoot or blog post or Twitter announcement or whatever that you entered into her little entry thing, she would put €1 towards COVID-19 relief. I'm not 100% sure what charity specifically she was using, or if she was just going to be putting into a general fund, and it's euro because she is from Britain and therefore it goes towards European COVID-19 relief. So yeah, I just think that's really fantastic. Before I go into the tag, I will just also mention that Victoria from What Victoria Read, Leanne from Literary Diversions, and someone else that I've completely forgotten have organised the Books for the Brave readathon, which is a readathon that is raising money towards the national health system in the UK, which I think is a great readathon. I'd already chosen a couple of readathons to go in for May, and this is probably going to sound a little selfish, but because I am not European or British, I decided not to go in and to put my money toward Australian COVID-19 relief. But I still think that it's a really fantastic readathon and you should go and check it out. I'm going to link all the announcement videos from all three of the hosts, including the person who I've forgotten, and I apologise for that, down in the description below. So please go and check out their videos and get involved. Anyway, so the tag. What Rachel Marie has done is she's made this little bingo board, and the idea is that you go through and have a look and say whether you have read that book or anything from that author, and if you haven't, whether you plan to, and if you don't, why you haven't read it or why you don't plan to. I had to go through and look up who some of these people were because, as you can see, she has put photos rather than names of the authors. So that might be an indication of how well I'm going to do in this quiz. But anyway, I just thought it seemed like a lot of fun. So here we go. Alright, so the first person is Angie Thomas. No, I have not read any Angie Thomas. I've been seeing lots and lots of praise for Angie Thomas, both for The Hate U Give and On the Come Up, since I started watching Booktube around this time last year. I definitely am planning on getting to both of those books. I just haven't quite got there yet. Shatter Me. The Shatter Me series is a very popular series on the Bookternet world at the moment, and it is another series of books that I haven't read yet, so not doing that well so far. But Leigh Bardugo. I have read one Leigh Bardugo book. Just one. I know she's been around for ages. I know she is a very, very popular author. She's written a lot of books, but I've only just found out about her and found out about her books. And the book of hers that I read was Ninth House. I made a video raving about how much I loved Ninth House. I will put that in the description below. If you want to know what I thought of it, go and check that out, but I definitely plan to read some more Leigh Bardugo. Next up is The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. So yay, I get another tick. I have read The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. I've actually read the entire trilogy, Folk of the Air trilogy by Holly Black. I buddy read that with my friend Hayley from What Hayley Read. I will link her channel in the description also, and I'm now just going to say that anybody that I mention, I will link in the description below. I really, really enjoyed these books. I thought they were well written. I thought they were a lot of fun. If you like fantasy, young adult fantasy, I definitely highly recommend that you go and read them. I think my favourite thing about the books was the fact that, as the name suggests, The Cruel Prince, it is a story about fae, and it harkens back to a time when fairies, or the fae, were considered cruel, as opposed to the more Disney-eyed idea of them being cute little pixie Tinkerbell types. Then we have The Bone Witch, which I have to go back to having not read. I've only heard about it a couple of times from a couple of different booktubers. I don't know anything about it. I don't actually even know who wrote it. I'm sure I'll potentially get around to it at some point, but it's not really high on my list. In fact, it's not really on a list at all. If I get to it at some point, I'll get to it, but I have no particular hankering to read it. And I should have said about Shadow Me, I feel the same way about that as well. I have no reason not to read it. I'm not against reading either of these series or books, but just don't really appeal to me. Next up we have Victoria Schwab. I have never read any Victoria Schwab or V.E. Schwab, as she also goes by. I think her books sound really, really interesting and I'm really intrigued to read them. I definitely want to get to those books in the next couple of years. I'm not going to say definitely will read a Victoria Schwab this year because I don't necessarily want to have to stick to that, although I would like to. So there you go. Cinder. I have read Cinder by Marissa Meyer. I quite liked Cinder. Definitely in a solid, it was enjoyable, didn't blow me away, but I thought it was an interesting re-look at Cinderella and that whole fairy tale. I quite enjoyed it. I did intend to continue on with the series, but I haven't got there yet. It's not a priority, but at some point I will. Yeah, that was Cinder. Adam Silvera. I've never read any Adam Silvera. I can't even bring to mind any of his books. I know that he's quite popular on the Bookternet, which is what all of these are, which is why they're all here. I don't really know much about him. I believe it's comedic writing, contemporary comedic writing, with a little bit of sort of angst thrown in and seriousness thrown in. But yeah, I don't really know much about his books. Cassandra Clare. I have read now one Cassandra Clare book, which was City of Bones. If you watched my, what month are we? March wrap up, then you would know that it was okay. I enjoyed it for what it was. It is YA urban fantasy. It's not fantastically well written. It's not terribly written. It's pretty solidly in the decent, relatively enjoyable. Wasn't written for me in mind, but I am not opposed to reading more. I have heard that the Infernal Devices series is a better series. This was her first book, so she could get better. I'm definitely reading the next book, City of Ashes, with my friend Connor from Connor Booktube, which is who I read City of Bones with. So I'm looking forward to getting into the series and finding out if it gets better from here. Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I have never read The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I did read Daisy Jones and the Six, as you probably know. It was okay. Wasn't my favourite book I've ever read. I know a lot of people absolutely adored it. A lot of people absolutely adored The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo as well. In fact, Taylor Jenkins Reid is a pretty popular author at the moment. I have no particular issue against reading The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I think that it sounds like an interesting premise. As with Daisy Jones and the Six, though, I am interested to see whether it will actually live up to the premise. I found that Daisy Jones and the Six, while it was an interesting premise and an interesting way of writing, and I respect what she was doing, I just didn't think that it was as amazing as everybody else thought it was. So I'll be interested to see whether The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo is the same for me. Yeah, not on the top of the priority list, but certainly not on the list. Laini Taylor. Laini Taylor is another author who I have never read anything of, who I really, really want to read some of her books. I've heard really great things about her. I've heard that she writes those sort of wistful, purple prose, magical realism, fantastical kinds of books that are absolutely right up my alley, and I definitely want to read some of her books, so I will get to that at some point. Hopefully again at some point this year, but who knows. Illuminae by J. Christoph and I want to say Andy Kaufman, but I don't think that's true. But anyway, I'll write a little note to say who it's actually by in editing. Anyway, Illuminae. I Look, I know this is incredibly popular. Everyone thinks they're great. I know that everyone thinks that the formatting is one of the best things about the book. I just have no interest in reading this book or any of the others. I don't really like formatting that goes backwards and forwards between prose and letters and manuals and stuff like that, which is what I believe this book is like. I don't necessarily have anything against that. I think that that is an interesting technique. I just don't find that I enjoy reading that sort of thing. So yeah, I have no particular interest in reading Illuminae. Amy Kaufman, I just remembered. Scythe by Neil Shusterman. I do intend to read Scythe. I have not yet read Scythe, but I do intend to read it. I even went so far as to borrow it from the library and didn't actually manage to get to it before I had to return it. I still intend to read it. It's obviously not at the top of the priority list, but yeah, it's definitely somewhere in the potential reads TBR pile. Sarah J. Maas, another author who I haven't read yet, who I am intrigued to read. I wouldn't say she's as high up the list as Laini Taylor or Victoria Schwab. I think it's probably more akin to Cassandra Clare, probably reasonably decent, reasonably well written, not amazing, and I'll get to it at some point and hopefully I'll enjoy it. An Ember in the Ash. This is another book that I haven't read yet that I have been intending to read. It's a book that I've heard from a lot of different booktubers who have similar tastes to me, that it is fantastic or that they're really interested in reading it. Just like I've been saying this whole video, I don't want to make definite decisions to read books that I don't have because I don't know if I'll get a chance to buy them or borrow them, or even if they'll end up being a priority this year, but I definitely would like to read that book sometime soon. Seanan McGuire. Seanan McGuire is an author who I have not yet read yet, who I'm very, very keen to read. She only came to my attention since I've been watching and making booktube videos myself. I'd never heard of her before and now suddenly I can't stop hearing about her. My friend Alison, who is a friend in real life, and I have been chatting recently and she has been saying how amazing she is and that I definitely should read her books, particularly the Wayward Children series. They sound like the kind of books that are right up my alley that I would absolutely love. Alison and I have very similar tastes in books, so I'm definitely keen to give them a go. I will go so far as to say that these are very near the top of the books that I'd like to read, so hopefully I will get to them this year, or at least the first book of the Wayward Children series this year. But yeah, hopefully soon. The Poppy Wall. I'm not opposed to reading it. I'm not particularly keen on reading it. I don't really know much about it. And To All the Boys I've Loved Before. Again, I know this is super, super, super popular at the moment. I have basically no interest in reading this series or this book. If you love the books, I'm sorry. It's just not a huge romance fan. I like contemporary, but it's not my favourite genre. I like YA, but it's not my favourite category. All of those things combined just make me really uninterested in the books. Look, I haven't totally ruled them out. I'm not saying I will never ever read them and you can't make me, but I'm just not interested. So let's have a look at how many there are. There are 18 authors and books on this bingo board, and I have read 1, 2, 3, 4 from this bingo board. So yeah, I guess I don't really read popular books. I'm definitely not up with the cool things, but I am trying. I'm trying to get up with them. I'm trying to catch up with what is popular. We'll see how we go. Anyway guys, that is my video for today. Like I said, the links to Rachel Marie's video where she talks about this challenge are in the description below. The links to the Books for the Brave readathon are in the description below. Please go and check those out. I think they're really important things to be focusing on and thinking about at the moment. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you later.